I'm going to get Valora, Richardson, and Matthew Tabor. So, who are going to draft a model AI Suchir Act, which is going to be our blueprint for protection. So, they are going to talk about the different legislations happening across the country in the United States and globally. And they are going to propose something. What are the things that we should cover in the uh, aspects of fair use, which I think Suchi Balaji wrote and thought, and then he went to New York Times to speak and whistleblow. So we are going to continue the dialogue, and they are going to do a workshop. So we are going to make our first efforts towards kind of getting at least an initial set of very important underpinnings for a possible regulation which can cover multiple aspects of it. So I'll just quickly introduce both Valora and Matthew Tabor. So Valora is a HBCU educational technology strategist. She's higher education leader. She's PhD in instructional technology. Matthew Tabor, MS is he has been helping many states on the AI policy development. He's a healthcare consultant, business development, and marketing professional. He has spent a lot of time in Washington D.C. Also in the previous administrations in healthcare regulations. So I think without much ado, I'll get both of them on the spotlight, and then I'll just get myself out of this. Okay, sorry.
Well, I'll go ahead and get started. Hello,
Yeah,
everyone.
give me a minute, Valora. I'm just
Okay.
getting you to the spotlight.
Oh,
This Zoom thing.
okay.
Okay, give me a minute, Matthew. Okay, cool. Thank you. Over to you guys.
Okay. Hey, good morning, everybody. We are just excited to be here today. And let me tell you, this is going to be a collaborative workshop. We only have a short time to do this. But we're so excited really to start thinking about a blueprint in honor of Shakir's life of ethical AI. And I just want to give Matthew some space to really talk about his experiences because I think they're really relevant to what we're going to do here today. So, Matthew, I'm going to turn this right over to you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew Tabor. I am in Nashville, Tennessee. I am so happy to be here with you all. It's a pleasure to be talking to you all on this very important topic. I am with an organization here called Protect Digital Identity. This is an organization that I started with. I started it with some members of Hollywood to help fight against and help promote what we call AI digital protection bills. I didn't digital identity protection bills, and whistleblowing also falls under that category. It's something that we are fighting for. I do have a healthcare background. That's my day job. But I have had a lot of experience working on policy before like this. I used to work in the United States Congress. I worked in 2007 for a member of the House. In 2008, I worked on the U.S. Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. And then in 2011, I did some more work on the Hill, but I did it from home where I am now. In 2017, I did some more work on the Hill here in Tennessee. I helped get a primary care law passed into the state of Tennessee in 2017. And then most recently, over the past year and a half, I've been working very hard on the AI front with getting these protection bills into law all across the country. I have a team, and we work together on getting laws. Specifically, we've gotten laws passed last year in California. We got two major laws passed in California alone last year. We got one here in my home state of Tennessee passed last year by the name of Elvis, who is the king, of course. And we got him passed into law. And we this year we're working on some bills to out of California as well as Congress. We're working on a big one in Congress right now called the No Fakes Act, and in California right now we're working on three major bills out of California. We're working on one called AB 412. AB 412 is It is a beautiful copyright bill. It's done by Rebecca Bauer Cahan. And so we are working on that bill. We're working on another one that has to do with synthetic content called SB 11. That's done by Angelique Ashby. And we're working on a major whistleblower bill. This bill is going to be very important and one to follow. It's a phenomenal bill out of California. It is done by Senator Scott Wiener, and it is called SB 53. This is a phenomenal bill. Its status right now is it is currently on the assembly side. It is going through. It is, I believe, it's going to have a date here very shortly. This next month with what's called the Senate Appropriations Committee, and then from there it will. Hopefully, if it survives appropriations, it will move on. But it's nice to be here with you all.
Okay, great. Thank you for that overview of what you're doing, Matt. That's really important to the work that we are trying to do here today. And as I said, this is really going to be real interactive. Sean, if you can help, if I can share my screen, I don't know if I have those. I do.
Yeah,
I do.
you can share a screen, Valora, please.
Okay. Okay, let me.
As Valora invited, I think anybody from the audience or from fellow speakers, panelists. So if you guys just want to join Valora and Matthew, just give me a holler, raise your hand, and I can add you to the panel so that you guys can help Valora and Matthew.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me. Okay, let me see what I'm gonna share desktop too. I'm sorry. I'm
Yes, Valora.
remembering how to use it. Remember, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Clearly. Okay, good. All right. So what I would like to do, we have 30 people on the call. It might end up being a little bit chaotic, but we want everyone to participate. And so what we're going to do today, we're going to work through 7 different sections. We might not be able to make all of them, but really we want to set the groundwork of what we could possibly put into this Model Act. And so you can either share those ideas out loud by raising your hand, or you can put them in a chat. And then I'm also going to trust you and put the link to this Miro board in the chat if I can get to it. All right. We'll put it in here. And so what we're going to do today, we're going to go topic by topic, and I have prompting questions for each. And we're going to think about some considerations that we should have as we develop this Model Act. So let me go over what they are, and then we'll get started. So first of all, we want to talk about definitions and scope. So what are we doing? What do we want to do? And then we'll talk about rights and protections that we should consider. Oops, I have 2 rights and protections, I'm sorry. And then accountability and enforcement, bias and fairness, and equity, data privacy, education and public awareness, and any other ideas or emerging topics that we might be missing. So let's go ahead and get started with definitions and scope. Okay, so look under definitions and scope, and I need your feedback. What terms must we define clearly in this act, such as AI system, algorithmic harm, explainability? What activities or technologies should fall within the act scope? So if you would go in, you can go in. There's some stickies already there. If you want to put it in the chat, we'll take about 3 minutes or maybe 5 minutes to think about definitions and scope. Now, we don't have to define them right now because we don't have time for that, but let's go ahead and put them in and let's of things that we should be thinking about under definitions and scope.
Awesome. So quick logistics. I'm going to just open up everybody attendee, trusting that none of you guys are going to Zoom bomb. You guys can unmute yourself now. So feel free to contribute to Valora's topic for this Model A Act. So now you guys can unmute yourself and can, if anybody wants to respond, you can just raise your hand and you can just chime in to answer, I think, definitions and scope. Valora, I can take the first shot. So I personally think that particularly Suchir acted on the fair use aspect. Is it like the data which all these large language models are training, whether they are kind of really using copyrighted data. So whether there is any this fair use aspect of the data, what the AI companies, the large transformers companies are using is that's the primary thing. I think it should be in the scope fair use. Thank you, Valora.
Okay, thank you. I got it. Anyone else? Let me see. Can somebody? I can't check the chat. Anybody write anything in the chat they want to add?
Yeah, it's Dawn here. I added transparency as a term that we should define because I think that's talked about a lot. It's sort of part of explainability, really, but it's transparency over, how decisions are made and, what the data points are.
Okay.
This is Matthew. Yeah, I agree with her 1000%. Transparency must be here and it must be well defined. I will tell you this. If you all remember the moratorium that almost killed every single AI bill, that moratorium was put up because of AB 412. AB 412 is a transparency bill. So that just goes to show you how important transparency actually is. The more transparent this can be, the better. And the better that it's defined, the better this will be.
Okay. Anybody else on definitions and scope? All right. Well, let's move on over to rights and protections. What rights should individuals have when AI is used in decisions that affect them? Examples, the right to explanation, the right to human review, opt-out, correction.
I think so it's Dawn here again, the right to know that decisions made about you at all are made by AI or influenced by AI.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're in the workplace and there's an AI system that makes salary recommendations, you should know that it exists and be able to have, an explanation of any decisions it's made about you.
Oh, yes, I like that one.
Happens to be a real example. But yes, if you don't know that decisions are made with AI, then you can't challenge them, right? So the right to know.
And then somebody put the right of forgetting. What is that? Can somebody, you want to come off mute and talk about that?
In fact, the GDPR Act, the Privacy Act of Europe Union have this both this right to know, right to forget as one of the very key pillars, Valora. I think I also agree the right to know, right to forget is also very important aspects which we can take inspiration from GDPR.
Yeah, so as far as I understand, I don't live in the EU, so I may not know exactly what it is, but the right to be forgotten is that some information about you can be required to be removed. Even I believe it's the case even if it's true, even true information, whereas I think in the US it may be only false information, but someone who is actually knowledgeable, hopefully like a legal person, may chime in.
You got it absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. And that's very important to have that ability to do right of forget. Yes, absolutely.
And I would add to that the right of correction, which again is sort of linked to GDPR, which is if there's data about you in an AI system that it's factually incorrect, you should have the ability to correct it.
In fact, I like the point suggested by Balaji here, protection against race. In fact, the recent AI action plan of United States government, which was released last week, I think also is talking about some of this race theory and a few other theories. So even though it has some political context, I think it's a very good start.
Okay. Right. So we have, so right now we have right to know decisions are made about you that used AI, right to control one's name and likeness, right to be forgotten, protection against racism to be included in training data, right of correction, data portability, right to move my data. What liable
Can I?
humans? Okay, yes.
So I was just going to add, as well as racism, of course, we should cover all discrimination. So
Yes.
any inherent discrimination of any type.
Yes, I agree.
Inherent bias or inherent discrimination. Yeah.
I think I also agree. In fact, somebody was recently quoting an example how all the AI models are, whenever we are asking for examples, it's never considering the gender aspect. It never gives a female as an example. So in whenever we are asking, okay, try think like a large McKinsey consultant, it always thinking like a large McKinsey male consultant. So I think they have proven through some studies, and it's very sad that they are not taking the genders into account.
Yeah. And
And
then
I think we should also have a right to understand the training data used, because if you understand what training data has been used, that may help you understand the integrity of that data. So has it been trained on perhaps, a government source where the data has been properly, checked and curated, or has it been trained on something out in the internet where issues are more likely to be exacerbated? So understanding the sources of the data, the training data.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, that is extremely important. That's actually what we're working on with AB 412 to do exactly that.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, because AI that is trained properly on properly checked data should actually be fairly decent in theory. It's where, as we've seen with a lot of LLMs, it's just trained on anything that's out there,
Yeah.
and therefore is a bit dodgy.
Okay, let's move down a little bit. I had rights and protections twice, so we're going to move over to accountability and enforcement. Okay, who is responsible when AI causes harm, and what enforcement mechanisms or penalties should be included? So go ahead.
So on that point, maybe one of the rights, before we come on to that, one of the rights should be to know who is responsible. So one of the rights, because obviously you cannot take any action if you don't know who is responsible. I don't know if you're familiar with the Workday litigation in the US at the moment. Have you seen that, where I can't remember his name, but an employee is suing Workday for inherent race discrimination, I think it is, in hiring. But Workday, he didn't work for Workday. Workday own the AI that is deployed across lots of companies globally. And so there's a question over whether it's Workday that is responsible. Are they an actual agent, effectively an employment agent, or is it the organization deploying the AI that is legally liable, i.e. the potential employer? So I think the first question is if you have an issue with this AI tool, who is the legally responsible party? So you know who to sue.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Okay. Now, okay, so back down to accountability and enforcement. So And that's part of what you said. It's like we do have that. We should have that right to know who developed the tool. But maybe this is more
Not so
about.
much who developed it, but who is legally
Yes.
liable.
Yeah. Okay.
They're two different things, right? The developer may
Yes.
not be liable. Yeah.
But then sometimes the developer might be liable. So wonder if we need to know
Well, it
that.
might be, but it shouldn't be for the end person impacted to have to litigate to find out who is legally
Oh, yeah.
responsible. That is something we should have the right to know.
Yeah.
If we're subject to AI decision making, who is legally responsible if we suffer harm as a result? So that should just be an employer or an organizer. Say it's an insurance company and they're doing some claim assessment using AI. Who's responsible? Is it the insurance company or is it the tech company that created the AI tool? And they should be
Okay. Yes.
required to say that when you take out a policy with them, or what it just should be in the event of any, harm, it's the insurance company that's liable. And I think it would normally be the end the person using
end
or the
user,
entity
yeah.
using it. But it's not clear today. It's not clear.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. So what enforcement what enforcement mechanisms or penalties should be included?
So this is the big problem, isn't it? Is that there's a plethora of potential regulators or potential to engage in expensive litigation. But really, there should be a regulator, in each country that has prime responsibility for AI discriminate or issues, and they could perhaps work with other regulators. So if it was let's say it was a healthcare related AI tool that caused, didn't prioritize people fairly for medical treatment, that regulator would work in conjunction with relevant healthcare regulators. I don't, but there's got to be a regulator somewhere that has responsibility, because otherwise all that happens is each individual pursues a claim and is perhaps either settled or tied up in years of litigation, but the harm that is impacting one person is likely impacting many others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you need the regulator somewhere. So I would say regulators, and perhaps
I would say
work out who that is.
I'm sorry. I would say you have to have enforcement here. You have to have enforcement, period. If you don't have enforcement, what's the whole point of this? So the enforcement must be there, period. There must be consequences.
And fines.
Yes, there must be. In my personal opinion, there must be jail time, but that's another story. But there must be significant fines. The fines that people usually put into these laws are like $1,000. $1,000 is
it's ridiculous.
$1,000 is nothing to these tech companies. It's nothing. It's not even pocket change. It's nothing to them. So you don't need to just be talking about fines. You need to be talking more about percent. The fine needs to be a certain percent of their global revenue.
Yeah, like the GDPR model, because I think that does have an impact.
Because right, exactly.
There also needs to be injunctive relief. Injunctive relief has to be able to be pursued where a judge can actually give specific orders.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that up there.
So I'll give you an example. Right now, Anthropic is facing potentially what they're calling a business ending lawsuit. They stole over 7 million books from authors. They trained on 7 million books from authors. That is
breaching copyright
trial in December. If the authors win their case, it will bankrupt Anthropic. But however, it's still such a small amount because it's not going after Anthropic's global revenue. If you go after their global revenue, you can really do even more damage to them as well. And so that's why when it comes to the fine, it really needs to be global revenue, for sure.
Yeah, and actually it needs to be enforced, because I think in Europe, or certainly in the UK, one of the issues we've seen with GDPR is that the ICO has been reluctant to use its powers, and as a result, the deterrent effect has gone, because they haven't been, on the whole, fining corporations a large amount of money and they haven't been very effective. And it started out that I think companies were concerned, but are less concerned now, are more willing to risk breaching GDPR because they sense that the regulator is not effective.
Just to connect,
Personal opinion.
yeah, just to connect with whatever you said, Don, on the GDPR aspect, I think Europe being a bedrock for all of these global standards, like for example, the whole ISO International Standards Organization headquartered in US, Europe is kind of one of the phenomenal thing. And in fact, on the privacy aspect, the entire globe, including state of California, United States, many others got inspiration only after GDPR came into effect. And even all the so-called large tech companies, Google to Facebook, everybody got penalized hundreds of millions of dollars by the European Union. I think that's when I think the whole world woke up that, okay, there is privacy behind all of us. So I think I have all regards for whatever GDPR Act and the regulation did with respect to penalty and enforcement. I think it should be almost replicated the same for an ideal AA Act.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, these things are expensive, and so you want proper compensation for those impacted and fines for deterrent. And I like to see, I think there should be a model where the fines go back into funding future investigations or future
It would be so fun.
to try and make this, you know, organization self-funding by the fines, which I think is the model that the SEC has, and some of the other US regulators, that they you know, so not all the money goes to the victim, although they should be properly compensated for, you know, their losses and harm, etc.
And Valora, what I
Could you
think
repeat that just again? Like fines should go back into funding,
as well as so there should be sort of, I guess, any penalties to for breaches should be split into compensation for the individuals affected, and I guess penalties by way of fines, which then fund the organization, the regulator that has to do this enforcement, because that's expensive. If you're investigating wealthy tech companies, you can expect legal challenges, you can expect, you know, it's not cheap. And therefore, if you have a model that is self-funding, that's much more attractive to a government than saying, you know,
okay.
this comes out of, you know, government budget.
Yeah, at the
depending on where you
well, enforcement actually creates a lot of issues, especially with the bills in California. What happens with the bills in California when you add enforcement to it, you're actually adding a cost. You're adding a great cost, and that also causes these bills to potentially not even be passed as a result of that. So
yeah,
so I'm not saying you shouldn't do enforcement. You should. You have to. Otherwise, as I said before, what's the point, right? So you have to do enforcement, but it needs to be done in such a way that it's not going to add, you know, so much of a burden here, because that's usually what kills these bills. These bills in California most of the time die in what is called suspense, which is the appropriations process. They die in suspense because of the enforcement costs. But if you can overcome the enforcement costs, they'll survive and they'll do well.
Right.
I in fact want to just make an observation on Matt's earlier point on Anthropic. So Anthropic is the only company I think at least came little true about what they used as the training data, that they have used some of this copyrighted data, but they are trying to quote it as a fair use. But I think the rest of the other large AI companies are not coming out very clean. So in fact, that is the very primary underpinning on which Suchir Balaji came out and blew his whistle on fair use.
All right. Let's go on. Did anyone have anything else for accountability and enforcement?
maybe we should say that any organization deploying AI, I think we've got this I'm not sure we do. It should have a named individual responsible and a board member responsible for compliance, maybe. So you want an organization, if they're using AI in their organization, to have maybe a board level person responsible for the safe deployment of it, which then could be linked to when there are failings, criminal sanctions, because that at the end of the day is the only thing that actually will make a difference. And it obviously it wouldn't be in every case, but if there was serious harm caused by AI and they didn't address that, then if you make the executive responsible for that AI, then they have a duty to ensure that any concerns are properly looked into and they can show that they've done that. Otherwise, it's negligent. So in the UK, we have the UK Companies Act, and directors and of companies, named directors, are potentially criminally liable for failures. And that's what we saw recently with the Post Office Horizon scandal. I don't know if you followed that, but that was a tech failure by the UK Post Office with Fujitsu, which resulted in hundreds of people being jailed. And they are now talking about potential that a number of executives are being investigated by the police with the potential that they could go to jail. And I think because they have failed their legal responsibilities under our legislation to take due care and diligence. So if they can show they did the right things, then they wouldn't be criminally liable. But it's gross negligence to be aware that there's a problem and do nothing. And I think that's the sort of thing that you need for AI, is you need to make an executive on the board or however, whoever it is, personally responsible for ensuring the AI is safe, and where concerns are raised, those are properly investigated and addressed.
Yeah, that's great. Great. Okay, let's move on to bias, fairness, and equity. How do we prevent AI from reinforcing bias or discrimination? And what standards for fairness should the act include? I'll start. I think we've already talked about this a little bit, but really knowing where the sources of the data are coming from, right? I think most of what's happening now is just, like if you, especially if you're Western or whatever. Well, let me give you an example. Like I was doing a image where it was supposed to take my picture and change it into something else. Like I don't know if I was trying to do, like, maybe it was a profile pic or something, one of the AI things in the early days. And I came down, the resulting picture was an Eastern woman, right? It wasn't me. Didn't even have my complexion, didn't have my hair. And so those are the kind of things I think we should start looking at. Like, okay, what is the basis of the determination of the result? And so someone already put increasing the diversity of teams. Yep. And let me put what I put here. Anybody else?
I think some kind of statistical reporting should be required. So if it's difficult because obviously it depends on the system, but if the board has responsibility for the AI deployed in the organization or the government or whatever, that they should be required to have statistical reports that cut the data by various, criteria, because high level that might show up some disparities. And so that's quite a reasonable safeguard that they should perhaps, when they should be able to show as part of their duty as a director or a government, a department, they should be able to show that they have run some statistical analysis on the fairness of their AI. And that might be for them to decide, right? But they ought to be able to demonstrate it. And if they can't demonstrate it, then that should be cause for concern if there's litigation or a regulatory report.
Mm-hmm.
They should also test it on diverse users, and it shouldn't be just user personas where somebody else is pretending to be of that population. It should be real, actual diverse users.
Yeah.
And it could be that maybe they need to have some kind of score that shows that, you know, perhaps they have points for how diverse their development team is and how diverse their testing process was, to give them an overall, you know, score, so that way you could have several components that say, well, you know, 80% of our test team, you know, was male and only 20% were female, but you know, the opposite was true of our development team, and that would give you a, you know, one might balance out the other maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how that score would be used other than to perhaps guide organizations of things they need to consider as part of their processes.
Okay.
But yeah, use a test, I think. Test rather than users, because they use testing.
User testing. Okay.
Matt, what do you think from your other experiences with respect to other state legislations you have worked on this fairness, equity?
I'm sorry. What did you say? I'm sorry.
No, I was asking Matt. Matt has worked on a couple of legislation for a few of the states. So what do you think? Are there any things you guys have covered in the fairness, equity, bias aspect?
Mm-hmm.
I think Matt has
It looks like he froze.
What else I think we should cover?
There's also quite a few bias correction tools out there.
Yeah.
And so maybe there could be something around that.
Yes, I totally agree with you. An overall thought that I have, just to keep in mind, is, so first of all, what you're doing here when it comes to designing legislation, this is exactly what you do. You're designing it perfectly. This is exactly what you did. I actually did this when I was on the health committee. I wouldn't quite do it like this, but I would do it very similar. I would write out bullet points. I would write out bullet points kind of like this and say, okay, this is what I want the bill to do. I wanted to do this, and this. And then I would take it to my boss and say, like, okay, can I move forward with this? And he'd say, yes, my son, go forward. So I would get his blessing to move forward. What you're doing here in the start of the process here is, yeah, you're right on track here. My other advice that I would give you all when it comes to this is, in this design process, is the bill that you do needs to be shielded. All right. Shielding is a drafting technique. Shielding is, what you're doing is you are trying to protect it. You're trying to protect it from who? The opposition. So what you do is you write it out in a certain way that gives the opposition second thoughts of attacking it. And so as you continue to write this piece of legislation out, that needs to be going in the back of your mind to say, like, okay, if we do this, what is, Technic and the other is going to do to try to kill this bill, right? So you need to, in the back of your mind, you need to have that in the back of your mind, because if you can have that in the back of your mind, then you know exactly how you can go and protect your bill better.
Awesome, Matt. So do you think, are there any political contexts, considering there is a bipartisan always thinking with respect to some of the pillars? So for example, this bias, fairness and equity, do you think how we can get, it can be like a bipartisan bill, whatever maybe it can be a state, it can be a city, it can be a federal legislation. What are the elements we should add?
I can tell you, I think it's looking pretty bipartisan right now.
Okay.
In the way that it's already designed, and this bill is not even in the zygote phase yet, and it's already looking, in my personal opinion, it's already looking bipartisan. It's looking really, really good. I can tell you what's been interesting with my team and I have, as we have been tracking these bills, a majority of the bills that we've been tracking and working on have wound up being extremely bipartisan. So this is like SB 53. It's a very bipartisan bill. It's really good. AB 412, yes, it definitely is. Elvis, he was passed unanimously in the state of Tennessee last year. He was completely bipartisan, and Elvis himself had all the elements that you're talking about right now. That's what made him so successful.
Awesome.
And so you're doing the right thing right here.
Awesome. In fact, we will try to, I think Valora has done a great, phenomenal job coming up with all this right element structure, and make this as a really an inclusive workshop to get feedback from all of us, from the participants. So we may think that is a very small audience, but more than the number of people, I think it's the key deep discussion what we are doing is important. I think with the help of Valora and Matt, I will try to publish this eventually, and we will try to open source this and see if we can even comprehend this as a put together in a Word document or some other format, whatever people can consume. We will publish in conference.suchir.ai website, as well as a few other places where people can consume. Thanks a lot, Valora. Sorry for the interruption. Please carry on.
Oh, okay. And then you also have a link to this mirror board too, as well. They can continue to use and work on. And so we got about 14 minutes left, and so we'll go through these fairly quickly. So the next one is data and privacy. How should the act regulate data collection, use, and protection? And what about the consent or the right to opt out? Now, we talked about it generally before, but are there any specifics that we need to put right here? And it's okay to duplicate it as well. So I mean, I love that idea about the right to be forgotten. I was like, I don't know why I never thought about this. I'm gonna put that one back here as well.
In fact, you said that very correct, Valora. I think the GDPR's impact is right now, wherever website we go, I think always all this, the cookies are always asking us whether we want to keep the very priority cookie or even the marketing cookie preferences in our computer. So every website is asking, right? I think world over, everybody's made to think, I think thanks to Europe and GDPR Act. I think you try to be forgotten is a very good element. And those who are joined newly, I think you guys can unmute yourself now and can speak and can add elements to this. Feel free. Surupa or yes, do you guys have any points to add? I see an input from Balaji. Balaji is mentioning AI developing its own personality, lies, stealing, and harming. So it can become psychopath when some CEOs has the pattern. So need to identify abnormal behaviors. So Balaji, do you think it should come in data privacy or?
It will come in the bias.
Bias. Maybe Valora, I think Balaji has one aspect to see how the AI model, what are the personalities based on which the models are built, are being trained.
Oh yes, I like that. So now is that under bias, fairness, and equity, or
Yeah.
Okay.
For example, if there is a racist CEO who is building the model, and I think the whole company and the products which are going to get built on that model is also going to be like that, right? Non-empathetic. a good point, Balaji.
Yeah, that is.
I think some of that will come about automatically from transparency of training data. Like the existing training data where they took like all the dark corners of the internet and all the criminal corners where they, you know, have hacked everything and, you know, put up, you know, people's private credit card numbers on the dark web. All of that was put into the training data. And if there's transparency of the training data, then this will automatically, that would automatically have, you know, mitigated that issue from the beginning. And similarly, if the, you know, there's all kinds of dark personalities or however you want to put it. I think that transparency of training data would automatically get rid of a lot of those problems.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. All right, well, we'll go on to the next one. And this is education and public awareness. What responsibility should government or developers have in educating the public about AI? Should the act include public literacy initiatives? And now that I read this out loud, it may be, you know, is the government responsible, you know, for having developers educate? You know what I'm saying? Is it, you know what I'm saying? Is it ours? You know, is it our responsibilities as those who use it to also um implement education? So I don't know. That's just what I think, because I think my area is in helping faculty use AI in their classroom, and it's not just helping faculty, but it's helping students as well. And so I think there's a responsibility there for universities to make sure that their faculty understand proper use, as well as their students, right? So that would be something that I put here. Let me put here.
A lot of the AI developers are like already in the field. So in certain professions, there's requirements for continuing education, like a certain number of hours of continuing.
Oh, yes.
Continuing legal education in order to keep up their licenses. I mean, well, I mean, that's another problem, that there's not even any licensing requirements, but so yeah, maybe there should be some kind of licensing requirements that also have some continuing education requirements.
I agree with Dr. Ruchira Valora. So in fact, all this AI companies should be the one who should be responsible for this education also, because they are the one certainly minting money, whether they are not for profit or for profit. So I think all of them are almost for profit now. Even the one pioneer, which is OpenAI, is supposed to be a non-for profit. But I think all of them are supposed to take this onus on education and public awareness, because they are the ones who have deeper insights about the models and things, what are the impacts it can make. So they should take the responsibility on education and public awareness.
Yes.
So in particular, that liable individual, I think it was mentioned in one of the previous segments that, you know, a particular individual is supposed to be named. That person should also be required to take some continuing education.
Okay. And let me know if I've missed anything. I'm trying to go through.
In fact, there should be a sector-wise educational aspect, Valora, from the AI developers itself. So for example, education industry may have a different set of consequences. The music industry may have a different consequences. The publishing industry may have different set of consequences. So basically, the AI developer should say very clearly that these are the potential consequences. like whatever electronic products or any products we buy, I think it has all these disclaimers and huge educational component which come with it, right? So there should be a educational component for sector-wise, Valora.
Yep, I like that.
So even though I have strong opinion about Elon on many things, but one thing is I think the open sourcing aspect, the huge open sourcing of all these AI models also can help people evaluate and also educate at the same time. So that should be, I don't know whether the open sourcing aspect should come here under this education and public awareness, but even this recent OpenAI action plan of United States government also is encouraging open source AI as well as open weight AI, both aspects. So we should see if we can also include that.
And you said both evaluate and what was the other word you used? Open models can help evaluate and
I don't know how to sum it up, but
I think you
I think
said it so well. I was
now, open model should be a de facto standard. So maybe I don't know whether it should come under the education and public awareness, but open models may be coming. It should be coming in the previous some other pillars. I don't know, maybe bias and fairness, equity. I don't know where it can help people to evaluate the kind of the other nuances of those models.
okay. And we can switch this around to wherever we need to. We got 4 more minutes, and I don't want to run over time. But before is it anything you think we're missing from here? That and maybe this could go over here, since we don't know where it goes yet. Because I think that's a good point.
Awesome, thank you. So Matt, do you have any other things which you think should cover? I think Valora has done a great job putting all these right pillars and seeking the inputs from the community.
Yeah, I personally think that I don't know what else to add. To be honest with you, I think this is covering a huge amount of territory, and Dr. Valora has just done a phenomenal job with this. This is looking really good.
Oh, thank you so much.
This is exactly, like I said before, this is exactly how you start out doing legislation. This is exactly how you do it. This is phenomenal.
And so I think what we should end with, though, and so thank you everybody who participated. But I'm gonna put Shannon in the hot seat and say, what are our next steps?
So I think the next step is the original thing. What we were expecting out of this is like a model legislation framework, Valora. I think you and Matt did a great job, and I think certainly, in fact, we wanted to see if there is some coalition of sorts which can also continue. We can act as a movement to see how we can propagate some of our thoughts as a community to see whatever different legislations getting passed in different parts of the world. Different states, different governments. So I think, for example, Matt is doing something every Tuesday, meeting as a coalition for better futures. So maybe we can join few of that. But for now, I think the immediate outcome is you and Matt, if you can help me sum it up, put some little more messaging of this, and can, even if it can, I think this visual aspect is also great, but if it can become like a PDF Word document, which we can propose, saying that we can try, I think Balaji and Purnima are going to meet a lot of congressmen and senators. They are going to visit Washington, D.C. in a short while to continue champion on AI ethics. So I'll have it given to them, and so that they can represent this as a Suchir Balaji Foundation's recommendation input as like a model AI Suchir Act with respect to AI ethics. Is that good, Balaji?
No, it sounds good. Yeah, I like the idea.
Thank you. Thank you. And in fact, Purnima observed that ChatGPT is stealing work of others. Yeah, I think it's not only about ChatGPT. All this large AI companies is kind of training based on a lot of copyrighted data. It's very quite harmful, as Purnima observed. So to protect this is needed. Thank you, Purnima.
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing us to be here today. Matthew, do you have any final words?
Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, thank you so much for doing this, Sean and Balaji and Purnima. This has been a really good session and a really great group, and I look forward to working with you all further on this too. I was just going to say too, the legislation, the framework that you have been designing here, I think it would not only just be good at at what we call here in the States known as a congressional level. I don't think this would just be good for that level. I think this could be really good model legislation for the rest of the states as well, including California. So I'm pretty excited about what we did today, and I look forward to see where this goes.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Valora and Matthew Tabor, taking time out of your busy schedule and on a very short notice over the last few weeks. You guys have been greatly instrumental and putting this together. Looking forward to continue collaborate. Without much ado, I'll invite